News Rants, a podcast about news stories that could get a bit ranty. All views expressed on News Rants are those of myself and any contributors. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of News Rants, where I take a news subject and, rant about it really. So this is the Partygate one that's just come out yesterday, where Boris Johnson, Carrie Johnson and Rishi Sunak all received £50 fixed penalty notices from the Metropolitan Police for breaking their own laws, basically. So, they broke their own laws. Now, under normal circumstances, if Ukraine-Russia wasn't happening, then the right thing here would be Boris Johnson resigns. But right now, it's a bit of a grey area whether he should do that or not. In the case of Rishi Sunak, because he's managed to pile up a lot of drama against him, he should resign, really, I think. I would have liked him to have resigned, but, because of all of the stuff that's come out and the fact that he's a bit of a hypocrite for basically not asking anyone who's non-domiciled to say to them, right, just pay a bit of extra tax for now. We need to build up the coffers. Yeah, makes him a hypocrite, really. And also the fact he had a green card and wasn't living in America. So, So, it obviously angers me because whilst they were having parties, none of us were allowed to go out. There was people out there who couldn't see their dying relatives because of these regulations that were all in force. Yet, people at Downing Street and Whitehall were having parties. Is that really a fair thing? No, it isn't. And what was the point of this lockdown? To stop the spread of a deadly virus. They didn't seem to think it was deadly, did they? Really? Clearly, if they're having parties, I don't think they thought this virus was deadly. Yet they palmed it off to us as it being deadly. And yeah, it was killing people. Granted, it was actually killing people at the beginning. So, people were dying from this virus and they were having parties. Yeah, you can't really do that, can you? It's not right, it's not fair. Now, obviously, it's understandable that the usual suspects, Sir Keir Starmer, Ian Blackford, et al., are all calling for the resignation of Boris Johnson. And Ian Blackford does that pretty much every single Prime Minister's questions, which isn't going to happen this week because they're on recess at the moment. And then you've got Sir Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats calling for a recall of Parliament to have a vote of no confidence in Boris Johnson. That isn't going to happen. Is that okay and understood for you, Sir Ed? I hope so. Right. So, obviously it's not right that they had the parties. Obviously, people are all up in arms about it. And there's lots of people out there calling for the resignation of Boris Johnson. I can imagine that people at the BBC are probably thinking that as well. Because, the BBC is one of the most anti-government organisations in this country. Which is why I don't pay their extortionate fees. So there you go. I don't actually have a TV licence, and I won't buy one until such times as the BBC book up their ideas, or I'll never get one, and the BBC will be done the other way. So that they're obviously calling for the resignation of Boris Johnson. It has to be said, because they would, because they're part of the anti-Boris, anti-Brexit brigade. And then you've got, obviously, all the Ramonas are probably calling for his resignation as well, including Lord Andrew Adonis, who blocked me on Twitter because I called him out for his insanity. And I feel very proud about that he blocked me on Twitter. He hasn't blocked News Rants yet, but that could still happen. I don't mind if he does, because that'll be an even bigger smile on my face. Because he's calling for the resignation of the Prime Minister, because these Ramona types, they will call for his resignation so they could undo a democratic vote. And this is just another tool in their armoury to call for Boris's resignation. Partygate. Yeah, slightly got off at a tangent, but, the people who call for Boris's resignation right now are most likely going to be either the Labour Party, the SNPs, who want Scottish independence, though I don't think that's ever going to happen, and, the Ramonas that were very, very unhappy they didn't get what they wanted because Brexit. So those are the people that call for Boris's resignation, and Partygate is just another excuse for them to do it. So, yes, across broadcast media, other than the BBC as well, I can imagine there's people calling for the resignation of Boris Johnson. I'm not calling for his resignation right now, but when it all started coming out, I was pretty much calling for his resignation, and I put a little video to him on my personal Twitter feed, basically demanding he resign that day that I put it up. But, well, he didn't resign. And to be honest, with the situation going on now and how he's stepped up to the plate and looking all statesman-like, I don't think he should resign just yet. Maybe he should further down the line, because, to be honest. But, if he's found to have knowingly misled Parliament, he will have to resign. That's one of the issues he's got to try and prove, that he didn't knowingly mislead Parliament. So, that's the other thing that he's got to get around. So, Partygate's been a scandal. It's been going on for some months now, obviously. People hadn't ever forgotten about it when Ukraine all kicked off. So, we all remembered. So, we knew it would come back, and it has. And it has in a big way. And they did say that if Boris was going to get a fixed penalty notice, the country would be told. And we were told. And that's why all the Ramonas and the Labour Party and the SNPs are all calling for his resignation. Funny that. They want him to resign. I mean, they're all saying that we changed Prime Ministers in the middle of World War II, which we were actively taking part in. I'm not actually sure the situation there. But either way, it doesn't matter too much if we do have to change a Prime Minister, because if we managed to do it in World War II, I'm sure we can do it now during a conflict that we're not actively engaged in. But to be honest, I just want this to play its course. I want all of the Ramonas and other people that are calling for Boris's head to just shut up, because I'm sick of hearing them go, Boris must resign, Boris must resign, criminalities took place. Yeah, the criminalities thing came from the Labour Party, from both Sir Keir Starmer, who is actually a lawyer by trade, and Angela Rayner, who called the Tory party scum at their 2021 conference, I believe it was. Yeah. And she had to apologise for that. And that's why I don't like Angela Rayner, because she thinks it's okay to call people scum. Even I'm not going that far, and I don't like the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. I wouldn't go as far as to call either party scum. Despite the fact that these parties took place when we couldn't have parties and people couldn't see their dying relatives. I mean, why not? How about this? To all those people that want Boris to resign and are calling for his resignation, just zip. Shut up. Be quiet. I know what's going on here. The people that want Boris Johnson to resign are the people that mostly people that want to reverse Brexit. Partygate is just another tool in their armoury to make sure they've got an excuse to have him resign. Brexit isn't being reversed. I hate to tell you this. It will never be reversed. Over my dead body. And I've said it. So, Partygate. Latest news rant. I'm not happy with what's happened. I'm not happy with the fact that these hypocritical politicians that made laws that we all obeyed, and some people got fined about 50,000, 100,000, 20,000. They're just random numbers, but those are the numbers I've seen. For breaking lockdown rules. When the first lockdown happened, while I was at work, I got pulled over by the police more times than I care to count, and at one point, despite the fact I was in my work uniform, the police thought I was taking the mickey. That's how bad it was. And yet the politicians are allowed to have parties. Yeah, no. No and no. That's not how it works. The lawmakers set an example. Okay? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you've got your fines, you've paid your fines, you've admitted guilt by paying the fines. I know it's technically not an actual proper crime if you get a fixed penalty notice, because it's pretty much equal to, say, a parking ticket, of which I've had a few. So there you go. Pay your fine, say you're sorry, and do what you believe is honourable. And if you feel that that is resignation, then that is up to you. You don't have to give in to pressure from the Ramonas or the Labour Party. Or even me, to be honest, because I did actually call for the resignation of Boris Johnson at one point. But at the moment, I'm not calling for that because there's no real point. I'm just going to let this take its course and, maybe next time they will, if they're going to try anything like this, which I hope they don't, they will actually set an example and not have parties. Because there was more parties. It wasn't just Boris Johnson's surprise birthday party. There was a picture of them in the garden of number 10 Downing Street, wine and cheese. There was that lady, Allegra Stratton, that's her name. She got caught on camera by ITV admitting there might have been some parties, and then the next day she was all boo-hoo-hoo and resigned. And then there was Matt Hancock, less said about him the better, but I'm going to say it anyway, who got caught with his tongue down the throat of his mistress in his office at the health department, and then he admitted the wrongdoing and resigned. Yeah, because they were all pretty much breaches of lockdown, weren't they? Yes. Well, maybe... or at least, in the case of Allegra Stratton, a confession of a breach of lockdown. These are all people that should have known better. They worked in government or civil servants as part of government, and they should have known better because the government set those laws. Those laws are now off the books, as far as I'm aware, hopefully never to return, and that would be grand. So, you've been listening to News Rants number 5 about Partygate, really, as it's turned out. And, So, because obviously I'm one of those people that wasn't very happy about it, because during the start of the first lockdown, as I mentioned, I got stopped by the police a few times, whilst I was working, and on one occasion the police were a bit funny with me, despite the fact I was wearing my work uniform and had a little letter in the windscreen of my car. Which clearly means the police are absolutely stupid. And I'm not going to say much more on that before I get into trouble. So, thank you for listening to the latest News Rants. You can catch News Rants on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, now Google Podcasts. They've finally got their act together and got us listed on there. In Vision on YouTube. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter, where I've been giving the terrorists of Extinction Rebellion a bit of a hard time. That's News Rants 2022. And that's all to do with the podcast and anything that might be connected to it, hence the Extinction Rebellion thing, because I covered them in podcast episode 1. So, thanks for listening or watching, and I'll catch you in the next exciting and probably heated News Rants. Until the next one.